What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm gonna be going over something that a lot of y'all have asked for, how to shape your golf shots. So lots of courses and lots of holes call for specific shots off the tee and into green. So we're talking low draws, high cuts, everything in between. And as a club fitter, I see amateur golfers all the time coming in with one shot and one shot only. Most of the time it's a cut or a power fade, as a lot of them like to call it. And this is limiting your scores. If you had the ability to bend the ball around trees, around obstacles, even just give yourselves better looks into greens through better angles, you would want to do it. And in my own personal golf journey, I've spent probably too much time at the range teaching myself how to hit slingers and stingers. So if you want to hit golf shots like these, stick around and pay attention. Here we go. So we're gonna be using TrackMan here. Obviously that's gonna show us whether it's drawing, fading, whatever it's doing, but you can do it outside too on the range. Obviously you're gonna be able to see what your ball's doing in the air. But the only two pieces of equipment that I would recommend that you get would be alignment sticks. You only need two of them. Really you only need one. I would say two is probably a little bit better. They're real cheap. Honestly, you can just use any straight flat stick looking thing. So if you have a shaft lying around, you can use that too. So the first thing that I'm gonna talk about is setup. Obviously, we want the ball, if we started out right, we want it to come back to the center line. If we started out left, we want it to come back to the center line. We want it to end on that center line most of the time. And that's what we're gonna practice today. So if we're hitting a draw, let's say I'm hitting a draw here, right? I need to start this ball right of my target line. So if this little line in the middle of the screen is the center line, I need to start it on that half of the screen. Now you could just set up exactly square and try and start it right at that center line and hit like a push draw. But what would be easier than that would be just turning yourself, starting it right naturally, hitting it straight, and just trying to draw it off that line. So that's what we're gonna do. So if you're hitting a draw, I want you to set up a little bit right of your target line. And that sounds super elementary, but it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with, is actually aiming themselves properly for the shot that they wanna hit. So my natural shot shape is gonna be a draw. So I'm just gonna hit my natural shot shape and have myself aligned a little bit to the right and watch this ball naturally draw back to the center line. Something just like that. Obviously that's a little bit exaggerated, but that's a pretty good example of just starting it right and let it naturally draw back. Now vice versa would be the cut. And this is one that you're gonna have to experiment a little bit with if you naturally hit a cut. Sometimes you don't actually need to start yourself more left because all that's gonna do is create more of a slice than you already have. But yeah, same premise. If I start like this, I could try and force myself to come over the top and come that way, but it would be a lot easier to just align myself that way to begin with. And disclaimer, my natural shot shape is a draw, so this is a lot harder for me to hit than a draw. We're gonna try it though, so we're gonna start center like this. Now we're gonna open ourselves up a little bit, start left of that center line on the screen, and see what happens. Something just like that. I'm not quite as good at that shot, so it didn't come all the way back to the center line, but it got close. And that's just the one thing that I would always start with, is always make sure you're lined up in the right spot for the shot that you want to hit. So going back to that first shot, the next thing that I want to talk about is path. These numbers resulted in that shot. Why? Let's go over it. So the numbers that I really want you to focus on is gonna be, this is gonna be the main thing, the club path. So we were 19 degrees in to out. So we were coming severely along this line, our club was. So as a right-handed golfer, if you want to hit a draw, your club needs to be coming from in to out. And if you want to hit a cut, your club needs to be coming from out to in. That's just general, ball shaping knowledge. Now if I go switch it to the other shot, the cut that I hit, we can look at it and see that our club path now was -10 degrees from out to in. So like I said, I'm not naturally a cutter of the golf ball, so I can't get quite that severe as I did with the draw. But yeah, so our club path got to -10.6 degrees there. So we were super out to in, and that's gonna create that big cut. Now club path is gonna be the main thing that dictates what shot we hit, whether it's a draw or a fade. But the thing that dictates whether it ends up on line is gonna be our face angle, and specifically our face to path angle. So all this number means is where was our face pointed at impact in relation to our club path. So Our face on this exact shot, which resulted in a pretty good shot here, a pretty big draw, our club path was 19.2 degrees in to out. Our face was 10 degrees closed compared to that club path. So we were 9.2 degrees still in to out, but not quite as severe as the club path. Now, if you want a shot that is relatively straight, you know, it's not an exact thing, but if you want a shot that's gonna be relatively close to your target line, this number needs to be between that number and 0. That's it. So it doesn't matter what this number is. If this number is, you know, 10, this needs to be between 10 and 0. If this number is -11, it needs to be between -11 and 0. And this one's really easy to break down, really easy to understand. So if our club is going from in to out right along this red alignment stick right here, if it's coming from in to out, all that's telling us is where our face is pointed. If we're coming severely in to out and our face is open like that, that ball never has a shot to come back left. It never has a chance. Versus if we're coming in to out and our face is pointed there, a lot closer to our center line, that ball has a chance to come back left. Now, the reason I say our face needs to be between that number and 0 is because if we get on the other side of that line, the 0 line, so if our club path was in to out 19.2 degrees, but our face was in the negatives, that means instead of being slightly closed, this face would be shut completely. And that's where we get those snap hooks that nobody likes. And on the other end of the spectrum, probably the more common one in amateur golf is gonna be if we're coming out to in, our face, instead of being pointed there, is pointed there. And that's where we get those big, high slice, weak right shots that I'm sure a lot of you guys see and you don't like. Now I'm gonna take these away and I'm gonna do my best to swing right down the line, but with a face that's slightly open compared to my path. So we can see it wasn't open compared to the path, it was slightly inside of it, but it was pretty close to that path, and instead of coming back to the center line, it kind of stayed out to the right there. Now we're gonna do it the other way, where we're trying to go out to in, so it cut path, but we shut the face and see what happens. So yeah, see what happens instead of, so yeah, that was a good example. So our face was even pointed a little bit left compared to our club path. So instead of that nice little cut coming back to the center line, it's just a double cross. That's what they call a double cross. And it starts left and goes even more left. Now let's show you the other thing I talked about where we're in to out, but our face, instead of pointed a little bit closed, is all the way closed. Let's see what happens there. Yeah, that's a good example. So our club path was 11.8 degrees in to out, but our club face was actually shut compared to the center line. It was negative. So that's where we get those big, you know, annoying pull hooks that I can't say I've never hit on the course, but we're trying to limit those this year. And then on the other side of the spectrum, it would be the one where we're coming super out to in, but the face is just open big time. And that's where we get those big slices that I'm sure a lot of you guys don't like to see. Yeah, and that's where we get those high, weak right misses. So our club path was negative 5.8 degrees, so we were out to in, but the face was pointed open, pointed right, and that's where you get those big right misses that nobody likes. Okay, so now that you have all that information up in your head, we're gonna play a little bit of a game. I'm gonna hit a shot, and you guys are gonna tell me based on those numbers where that shot ended up and whether it was a draw or a fade or what the shot was. My guess is that it was a pretty good shot. It's a little bit of a draw. It might have ended up a little bit to the left of the center line, but overall it was a pretty good draw shot. And that's exactly what it was. As we can see, our club path was 5.8 degrees in to out. The face angle was between that number and 0, so we got a shot that was generally where our target was. Let's do it again 2 more times. All right, here are the numbers. I'll let you think about it for a second. All right, my guess is that this shot was gonna be very right. It's gonna be very right. It's gonna start right and it's gonna go more right. As we can see, our club path was a little bit out to in, so a little bit of a cut path, but instead of that number being between -1.4 and 0, it's on the other side of that 0 line. So my guess is that this is gonna be a high, weak right shot that I said I didn't want, but I hit it anyway. And again, as you can see, that's exactly what it was. Yep, it started right because our face was pointed that way at impact, and it never had a chance of coming back left. We're gonna do it again one last time. Here we go. Okay, so my guess is that this shot is gonna be a little bit right. Not too bad, but it definitely is gonna be a little bit of a block right. The club path was 4.4 degrees in to out, but the face was the exact same. So it didn't come back left, it didn't go more right, it should have just stayed exactly where it started. And that is exactly right. It's a little bit of a block right. It's not gonna kill us, but it's not exactly what we were going for. Okay, so those were all 7-irons. Now I'm gonna show you with a 4-iron, we're gonna go up in club and show you how the higher in club you go, the more these numbers affect your ball flight. So with a 4-iron, if I took that exact same swing with the big draw 7-iron that you guys saw the very first shot, it would have hooked a lot more. So first shot, we're gonna hit a big slinger right to left. And to show you guys, I put the curve right down here. It went 180 feet from right to left. So, just for reference, I could not sling a 7-iron that far if I tried my absolute hardest. It's a shorter shaft. There's just not as much room for it to sling to come from out to in, or from in to out in this case. So now we're gonna try and hit a big old cut. And for this one, we're gonna have to start it way left. Even there, like I didn't start it right enough, and I started that pretty far right. So for this, I know I'm gonna have to start it pretty much middle of the screen on the left side over here if I want it to end up pretty good. So quality of contact was not great there. I chunked it a little bit. It only carried 200 yards, but the sentiment remains. So our club path was -13 degrees or 14 degrees almost out to in. The face angle was directly between that number and 0, as we can see right there. And we got a shot that resulted in a pretty good shot. Now let's go over how it affects a 3-wood even more than the 4-iron. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna start it right and hit a big slinger right to left. Like that. Again, 16.5 degrees in to out with a face angle that's between that number and 0, and we got a pretty good shot there. Now we're gonna try it the other way. I will say though, this is not where my game shines, so this one might take a couple tries. Like I said, not great at this one. Let's give it another go. That might be a little better. Okay, that was better. That was better effort. Yep, again, we were -5.4 degrees out to in with a face angle between that number and 0. Again, it resulted in a good shot. Okay, now moving on to driver. I'm not gonna try and hit big slingers with this one. I'm gonna hit just a normal controlled draw or fade because you should never ever try and be slinging a driver unless you're doing it for like a cool video or something like that. But on course, you should not ever try and sling a driver. You should be trying to hit it pretty much as straight as you can. But that doesn't mean you still can't shot shape it. So I'm still gonna try and hit a little bit of a draw here with the driver. I'm just not gonna try and start it way out right. Just a normal stock draw. Now that's about as much of a slinger as I'm gonna hit with a driver. That's about as much shot shape as I want on a driver ever. But again, the same thing remains. Club path got pretty severe there, 11.4 degrees out to in. Face angle was, again, between that number and 0, and it resulted in a pretty good shot. So now we're gonna do it the other way, and this is the last shot that I ever try. I don't even know if I can get this club path to negatives. But we're gonna get it as close to 0 as we can. whew, that's about as negative as I'm ever gonna get with drivers, negative 1.4 degrees. But again, face angle was between that and 0, negative 0.8. So it resulted in a pretty straight shot. But yeah, so that's a little tutorial on how to shape your shots right to left and left to right. Now another thing that I'm sure a lot of you guys wanna see is a stinger, or learn how to do, is hit a stinger. And it's a lot easier to show you with driver than anything else. So I'm gonna tee this ball up really, really high. This is a lot higher than I would tee this ball up. All you need to do, and I'm gonna show you on this camera over here, all we're doing is we're taking our weight and we're shifting it forward and we're forward pressing our hands. At least that's how I do it. I don't really know what the proper technique to hit a stinger is, but I've hit some cool ones in my day. And that's all I do, is I just shift everything forward and shift the hands forward, and really we're just trying to hit down on it. So with driver, it would look something like this. So yeah, as you can see, that ball flight was a lot lower. Our attack angle was negative 3.9 instead of the normal positive, 4 to 6 degrees or whatever I am up into it. All the numbers look good. It's not gonna carry anywhere near as far. It only carried 265, but it rolled out to 297, so you're gonna get a ton of roll on this shot. Yeah, I mean, now we're gonna go to 4-iron, show you how to do it there. It's a little bit harder with an iron, but it's not impossible. So with a 4-iron, if I wanted to hit a stinger, I would put this ball a little bit farther back in my stance than I normally would. And again, I would start like this, maybe a little bit closer to it, but I would start like this. And all I would do is try and maintain that posture throughout the swing. So I would stay right here. I would stay like that the whole swing. And instead of trying to hit like there on the ball, I would really try and hit down on the top back half of that golf ball and really hit it into the ground and let that spin compress it and make it rise a little bit. So it's not gonna show it quite as good on TrackMan, but here goes. I can show you a little bit. And it was a little flare right, but it was definitely lower. Let's try it one more time. See if we can't get a straight one. Get one even lower. Yeah, so that's a low shot right there. Low riser a little bit. Again, it's not gonna carry near as far, so if you are doing the shot, just know that it's not gonna carry what your normal 4-iron carries. But yeah, so our attack angle there was negative 8.8 degrees. So that's pretty severely down into it, especially with a long iron, when most people are gonna be a little bit more up into it. So last thing I'll leave you with is just the overall theory of these shots. In a normal round of golf, I would say maybe one time you should be hitting a shot like this, a slinger, either right to left or left to right. Maybe you're behind a tree or you have to get around a tree or something like that, and you have to hit one of those shots. That's okay. But most of the time, 99.9% of your shots, I would never recommend actually hitting one of these shots. They look cool, but they're not that practical. They're not that usable on course. So most of the time, I would be trying to hit as straight of a shot as I possibly can. So this has been my little spiel about how to sling the ball, how to hit stingers, all that fun stuff. Again, not that practical. Go to the range, practice it. It is really rewarding. It feels really good when you do hit a good one. But yeah, that's all I got for you on this video. I'll leave you with one little 4-iron slinger here before it's my time to go. That's gonna be it for me. I appreciate you guys sticking around. Until next time, peace out.